try to be first class. I try to stay first class in all my actions on the train. And I'm proud of it. Truly proud of it. I'm proud to carry on the tradition and the art of the hustle.
To hear Louis Greenway tell it, he found freedom in 1976, the year he went to work for the railroad.
Finally, I'm doing something I want to do for me rather than for something I have to do for somebody else. You know, like shoulder to the grindstone, nose to the wheel, and try to work in that position. You know. There we are.
Greenway now rubs shoulders with passengers, keeps his nose to the window as he watches America go by from his office, a double-decker car that sleeps 44. Greenway is what Amtrak calls a sleeping car attendant.
You and me, baby. I learned my job mostly from most of the old Pullman porters. And I do say porters because they knew their job. And I was fortunate enough that they liked me as a white man in a black man's job. And this is one of the old tricks that I learned from the old porters, is this one right here. I feel like it's an honor. I really do. Like I'm carrying on a tradition. You always, the old-time movies, the black porters who brought the suitcases aboard and put the beds down, and the dining car were all black people, and they were all first-class people. I have a lot of respect for those people. They worked hard for what they made.
Louis Greenway, and all of us for that matter, owe a lot to the early sleeping car attendants, the Pullman porters, who worked on cars such as this one. In the 1920s, the Pullman Company was the largest single employer of black men in America and paid them about $67 a month.
I was working 250 hours a month. The porter's job was to take care of the passengers, keep the car tidied up, take care of your guests at night. We would sit all night. We had a stool at the end of the car, a chair at the end of the car. I was sitting in that chair all night and look down the hall. If somebody wanted to get up, you have to be available to get them out of the upper berths. I would stay up 20 hours a day, 4 hours rest at night, get up, go the next day, same thing, 20 hours. So it took a lot of wear and tear out of you.
If you think Jesse Mitchell had it rough, consider that by the time he went to work for the Pullman Company 50 years ago, the 12,000 porters at least had a union, and it was beginning the fight for improved pay and conditions.
And I'm now being served.
I got a mother in the promised land, never. Goodbye, folks.
The earlier porters were one step away from slavery, and even though that described the job as well as the times, many saw the uniform as their ticket to a better life. Not much better, but better.
I had very little money when I got to Oakland, you know. I had a 50 cent a day to eat on for a long time. When I hear people criticizing these railroad Negroes, I knew they just didn't know.
88-year-old C.L. Dellums became a porter in 1925 when he and his co-workers were deprived even the dignity of being addressed by their own name.
All the porters were referred to by the passengers as George, you know, from George and Pullman. But what could you do, you know? The pay was so low. They had to depend too much upon tips.
Right here's where I estimate the profits for the run. Now, if you brushes a dime out of this, you're doing well. And number 3 here, boy, that's good for a hair.
Dellums is the sole surviving member of a courageous band of labor organizers who followed A. Philip Randolph into battle with what, in the 1920s, was one of the most powerful and violently anti-union companies in America.
We were 10 years gaining recognition, 10 long, bitter years. We don't know how many men lost their jobs because of their union activities or their membership. In some places, if they saw them going in and out of the Brotherhood offices, they would be fired. You know, there were some very dark days.
All right, put them in jail.
Because of their organizing experience, the sleeping car porters would be instrumental in the modern civil rights movement. A Brotherhood official, not Martin Luther King, orchestrated the bus boycott in Montgomery, Alabama, and the 1963 March on Washington was planned by Randolph himself.
He was the Martin Luther King before Martin Luther King. And Mrs. King said without A. Philip Randolph there would have been no Martin Luther King.
It was a wonderful thing that he did for the civil rights of this country. Mr. A. Philip Randolph, he brought us from a long ways. If it hadn't been for him and Mr. Martin Luther King, I don't think that this country would be out of struggle as yet.
For better and worse, the old sleeping car porters are gone now. Their brotherhood absorbed into another union. Their name changed to attendants. But there's been a lot of improvements. For every day worked, they get a day off. The starting salary is $23,000, and it's no longer a dead-end job. Train Chief Bill Schaefer began his career making beds. On the other hand, much of the spirit, the pride, and the dedication died with the old porters. Much of it. But as long as there are the Lewis Greenways, not all of it.